For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise, and you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here. This is The Scribble. You know, last week on the show, I kind of said at the end that I figured that my thoughts would set some people off because I was criticizing social media use and how people don't live in the moment, right? You're on vacation, you're on the beach, and you're getting the good... I always laugh at somebody who's seen clutching their phone on the beach. So what I mean by that is, you know, you're there with your partner, they take a picture of you and you're standing, you know, in the water or whatever. You're standing holding your phone. Because that means that if it's your honeymoon or whatever it is, you're not focused on your partner and being together and in that moment, breathing in the air, looking around. You're clutching your phone because you're waiting to capture the next picture to show everyone else. Who the fuck cares? Oh, look at this. First minute, I'm already swearing. Who the hell cares about your honeymoon? Like, if people are caring more about your honeymoon than you are, who cares what they think? Who cares? And so you quickly, you grab a picture, and then it drives me insane when I see a group of friends or whatever on the beach and it's a group shot and half the people are holding their phones. Or you'll see the loungers, right? People by the pool, there's 3 loungers in a row, you're with your group of friends, everybody's looking down at their phones. The idea of a vacation is to get away and go and escape all of that. To forget all the people back home. When I would go on our travel trips for our radio shows, our tourism things that we would produce from different destinations, my mom would always say to me, and I didn't even live with my mom, but she would always say to me, take lots of pictures, send me pictures. I wouldn't do that until either halfway through the trip or maybe even once I got home. And she would even be texting me going, how's it going? Are you still... Because I'm in that moment. I'm in that zone. I'm there either working or during my time off there, I was going and enjoying it. I wasn't thinking. I wasn't sitting there going, oh, that's right. I just need to send some pictures to my mom. Oh, my mom's going to love this shot. No, not happening. And so I got a lot of response from people because I shared those opinions last week, and the people were basically going and saying, I also criticized the whole thing about love, and I commented and said, people who are always posting about how wonderful love is, I don't know if they actually experience it, because if you're living love, you don't need to say how wonderful it is, because what's the point of doing that? Is it to make people feel shitty about their own relationship or their own life? I don't get it. It's just, if you're in love, you know what it is and you get it, and people know that love is a good thing. So this week on the show, this is going to be a bold statement, but hear me out. Love is overrated. Love is overrated. I'm going to leave you with that to ponder as you hear a couple messages here, and I'll tell you why I feel that way on the Scribble right after this.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
JB here, back on the Scribble. Before you already start hate mailing me, so full disclosure, I'm happily married. I've been in a relationship for 7-8 years. I'm not just some new person who's all about love, and love is wonderful, and love, and I do cartwheels, and we have all these, we don't have all these framed pictures around our house about how love is home, and we don't have pictures of us on our walls. We just don't. So I'm not some bitter single person. I want to put that out there before people come at me and go, well, that's why. It's because you don't have love in your life. I have love in my life. My life is great. But here's why I'm telling you that love is overrated. Because growing up at home, I didn't come from a broken home. There was no abuse. It's not like I didn't, I wasn't a foster kid who was moved around from house to house. I didn't, we had a pretty stable environment. My brothers and my two older brothers and I lived with my parents. My parents are still married. It's not like there's any, we didn't have any sort of tragic broken home scenario or situation. But for me, my two brothers are roughly around the same age. They're both, well, they were anyway, both into sports. They were both on the hockey team, the soccer team, baseball team. They took taekwondo together, and I was in the arts, right? And that's not necessarily just because, I was the gay kid, so I was on my own. That wasn't really it at all. I mean, I guess in hindsight, when you look at it that way, that's probably what it was. I had no interest in sports. My brothers did kind of do musical theater in school, but I continued doing it after school. So I was just different. I was into the arts. My brothers shared a room together. And again, that's just because they were closer in age and, they were similar. I was the young kid who was sort of always kind of the third wheel for things. And so I was always off on my own. So my bedroom in my parents' house was upstairs. My brothers had a room downstairs. I was always in my room by myself. With the door closed, I was in my own little world. I played with Lego. I had my own TV. I bought a little TV because I had saved up money. I had, my own VCR. Eventually, I had my own phone line. And I just it was almost like my own little apartment, my little, shoebox of a room. I think my room was like 8 feet by 8 feet. It was literally a cube. It was just a square. And I made it my own because that was my own little world. And I was a creative person. So I would play store. I would play video rental place. I'm trying to think, back in the day, you used to go to the movies and you'd get a magazine, I guess you'd call it, and it had the different movie posters for, upcoming movies or movies that were out. And so what I did was I would take those and I would tear out the movie poster, whatever you call it, and I'm talking to a certain age demographic, when you'd go to the movie store and you'd look for, Titanic or whatever it was. So I would have that movie poster and that I made a little video store. Like there's the Titanic poster was essentially the VHS or whatever of Titanic. And I would have little store hours, and I would also, again, play a store. I would even make a restaurant, so I would have the menu board, and I would handwrite. My stationery was like my thing as a kid. So I did have a letter board where you'd stick the letters on, and I was always having things like that. I made signs. I even had like a little billboard that I made outside my room that I had a bulletin board, and then I had a light bright, if you remember that, and that would light up the billboard. And I even had a timer that would be on the timer. So I was very creative. I was just maybe a weird kid, sure. I played with Lego until I was 18, and I was just on my own. And so I wasn't constantly having people tell me that, oh, that's really cool. Oh, that's creative. Hey, that's fun. Oh, that's really neat. And which is shocking because my mom was a teacher for 30-some years and worked with kids. So that's in their formative years. You'd think that, there's going to be encouragement, but I just didn't have that. I didn't have somebody coming and sitting and asking me to explain like, oh, so what's the store? Or even playing store with me. And because I just had imaginary people, I had imaginary customers. I even remember back when on David Letterman's The Late Show, he had the top 10 list. And I remember getting the book of his top 10 lists. There was an actual book of them. I ended up just sort of pretending that I was doing the top 10 list. I would just host this, whatever it was. I don't even know. I would pretend to be looking at the camera. I would have, cue cards. I would do all this stuff. I would just be on my own. And I didn't depend on, or I didn't rely on, love. And I was okay with that after a while. And I think, now this is where people might disagree with me, and I'll even admit that I could be wrong on this, but I think that foster kids or people who bounce around from home to home don't get that stability of having a caring love in their life. You get that from, foster parents or your foster family, but I think that that's where, I could understand how a kid being bounced around from home to home to home would kind of feel like, I'm not really loved, and so I get that, and it seems like it's a sad thing on the surface, but again, hear me out, was that it didn't destroy me. It didn't make me emotionally unstable or needy or dependent on other people. It had the opposite effect. It had me become very independent. That if I needed to work something out, I knew that I couldn't go to my brothers and talk it through with them. I knew that my parents wouldn't really kind of understand because they were just sort of very negative, grouchy people. So I kind of thought, well, I'm sort of just on my own, and I'll figure things out on my own. And that's where you learn to, do I let this affect me, or is it not worth thinking about and devoting energy and emotion to? And you start to shut things out, and you become almost emotionally numb to a lot of things. So if somebody back in the day were to say to me, that you're not, you're a terrible, I said I did musical theater. So, you're a terrible singer. Oh, you can't dance. I knew that wasn't true. I knew that was just sort of an insult. It didn't make me go and say, well, I guess I can't. Because when I was growing up, I knew that I wanted to be a writer. I started to at family get-togethers because I was the youngest and, again, didn't really... It's not that I didn't fit in. I just didn't have the same interests. When all the other kids were going outside and playing and going to the park and running around, it wasn't that I was against being outside or getting physical activity. That just wasn't my interest. I had the interest of going into, let's say, would be at my aunt and uncle's house and they had a computer. I had more interest in going in there and typing up a story. And I remember this, I actually have it in my house. I had typed a story about a roller coaster, and it was descriptive, and it gave words, and it painted a picture. It gave words, of course it did. It painted a picture, though. It gave a visual, is what I mean, of the roller coaster going up, and then it turned around, and then it went over and under, and there was something that I just found fascinating about doing that. And so that's how I became a writer, was I would go to these family get-togethers, the other kids would be off playing, the adults would be going and doing whatever, cooking or drinking or whatever, and I would be on my own in the office upstairs in my aunt and uncle's house, just typing something, and then I would ask my uncle to come and plug in the printer, and this is back when paper was, really weird. A printer was not just as easy to use, and I would print out like a 2-page, little story. And it wasn't necessarily for anybody. I just did it. And then eventually what I started to do was create a family newsletter. And I started to just kind of report on what was happening in the family at the time. And that kind of got me attention at the very beginning. And I was sort of like, well, hey, people are noticing me now because I'm writing about this. And it's kind of cool that I'm documenting what's happening in our family. And we've got this record of it. And this was before everybody, well, it was around the time that people started having kids. My cousins were having kids and the family was growing. So it was kind of fun that the new baby is born and all of a sudden it's the front page of the newsletter. And so that was sort of my claim to fame in the family. And as the family grew and there were more people, I was kind of like, oh shit, I'm being upstaged now by these babies and everything. So I quickly turned it into a tabloid. I really did. And I would sort of have little snarky comments about things in there as well, just sort of as a dig to people. And that was, and I did it for probably about a good 10 years. It was monthly. I don't know how many issues of it. And then when I started to do professional writing as a teenager, I was professionally writing as a teenager, believe it or not. I kind of stopped doing the newsletter because that's where I thought, these people don't deserve my talents. I almost sort of had a grudge. It was, I kind of rebelled, and I thought, here, I'm doing it professionally now. I'm getting paid to do it as a teenager, no less, that I'm not going to do this crummy newsletter for these people. They don't appreciate it. They don't appreciate me. Now I'm back to where I was before I started doing the newsletter, just a fly on the wall almost. A wallflower, I guess would be the term too. And so then I was just like, all right, cool. I'm just on my own. So as everybody's in the family getting married and then having kids, I was the single guy. I think everybody thought that I would be single forever. And there was a time where I thought that too, in my 20s and very early 30s. And I was okay with that. I really was. When I was 21, 22 years old, I was desperately wanting a boyfriend. I was desperately needing a boyfriend and a relationship and somebody to tell me that they loved me and that I could hang out with them and then I would feel special that way. But then I kind of thought, that's not healthy for me. Because just if somebody, a friend or whoever left my life, it devastated me. Like there was no consoling me. It was a depression. It was anxiety. It was no appetite. It was just, and I thought, why am I allowing this to take over my life? And so when I was, I guess I was 22, 23, and I was just, I was a college dropout because I couldn't afford to finish school. My parents were not helping pay for the schooling, and I thought, well, I'll just find work in the industry. And so what I was doing was I was applying for newspaper jobs. Now, this is when I had a fax machine. Here we are for our younger listeners. I had a fax machine, and I would be in the basement of my parents' house, and my mom would hear the loud dialing, beep, 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 and then the squeal of a fax machine. And she would come downstairs, and she would ask, what are you doing? Well, now what? Now where? Now what? And I said, I'm just applying for a newspaper job. Nobody's going to want to hire. Nobody's going to hire you. You don't even live there. You don't have a car. You're not done school. Nobody's going to hire. So this is somebody who's basically beating me down and saying you're never going to get hired in this job. Well, I later figured it out that was her being very selfish because she didn't want me to move away. She didn't want. And when I figured that out was when I bought my house. When I was looking at houses, and she would say that's too far. Oh, that's too far. Too far from what? From you. That's you being selfish because you want me to stay close. And I had this sort of eye-opening moment where I kind of thought, here's the deal. Here's somebody who's not trying to help me get ahead. And this is your own parent, right? This is your mother who you'd think would be encouraging you. You can do it. Oh, yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, good luck with that. Instead, when I would go for job interviews to Alberta, I had 2 newspapers that were interested in hiring me at the time. I just knew that she wasn't rooting for me. She didn't want me to get these jobs because I'd be moving away. And that's why, that's very malicious, right? It's not that, it has got nothing to do with your skill or your ability. This is somebody who's just trying to throw obstacles in your way to beat you down emotionally so that you don't think that you can do it. And yes, I could see how that would weaken somebody and make them go and say, oh crap, I don't have what it takes. Yeah, you know what? My mom's not going to steer me in the wrong direction. Of course, my mom's going to look out for me and tell me that I don't have what it takes. But that's the exact opposite. That's just her going and putting her own interests first. And that was when I shut that off and shut that down. And from that point on, when I was, 22, 23, from that point on was when I said, nah, not allowing that. Shutting that down. And I had some guys fuck with my emotions as well. And that was when, again, nope, not happening. Me first. Me first. If I want that job, if I want that opportunity, I'm doing it. I don't care if my mom's going to cry because I moved away. Fuck her. Let her deal with that. That's on her. That's truly the stance that I took. And it's hard to go and say, I don't want to say that I went unloved as a kid. What I'm saying is that affection, that love being shown to you, that encouragement from a parent, the big brothers who you always think, right, a big brother is going to come and, protect you and watch out for you. No, my brothers had each other. They weren't looking out for me. That just wasn't happening. And again, that's okay. And that's what I'm saying is it's fine to be unloved. Being unloved and feeling unloved are 2 different things, right? You can feel unloved by your partner because they don't tell you you're beautiful, but at the end of the day, you need to feel beautiful on your own. And I don't subscribe to having somebody go, I don't go and say, how does this shirt look? Do I look good today? How does my hair? Is my hair okay? Do these shoes go? I'm going to do what I want. And that's where I think I mentioned it just briefly, I don't even know if it was already on this show or if it was last week, but I said, this colleague who she needs her husband to tell her that she looks good. Don't you feel better when Charles tells you that, your ass looks great in those pants? No, I don't. Sorry. I don't need that. I'm not desperate for that positive reassurance. I will look in the mirror. I don't even look in the mirror when I'm getting ready when we're going out. Truthfully, I don't. I don't sit there and go, oh, maybe not this. Oh, no. I don't give 2 shits about it anymore. So me, who thought I thought that I was going to be the perpetual single guy, perpetual loner, really. Again, when I moved into my house when I was 25, I had people over for the first little while, but then I kind of just became this recluse and this loner, and that's okay. It's fine. There was no depression. I haven't been on anxiety meds since I lived in my parents' house. And that's, I think, again, part of what I was dealing with. But it took that switch that I just kind of flicked and said, nope, not allowing that anymore. And I've spent many a New Year's Eve by myself, many birthdays by myself, and that's okay. It doesn't make me feel terrible because I've always been able to make the most of a situation, make the most of, whatever it is. It's fun to travel with my husband. I prefer going somewhere on my own. When we would be doing our travel programming with the radio shows, generally we would have, our group of people, or even maybe just one producer come with me and do it. But there were 1 or 2, maybe 3 destinations where I went by myself, and I was fine with that. it wasn't a problem for me. So for me, yes, I mentioned at the top, I've got a great husband. We've got, pets and everything like that. But when he goes away to travel and he's gone for a week or two, or if I go away and he's left at home, there isn't this loneliness where like I need to check in with him just to kind of recenter or whatever. It's not, sure, I miss seeing him and, whatever, but we don't do those messages of like, miss you, can't wait to see you again. It never, even early on in the relationship, we just didn't do that because we're strong enough people emotionally on our own, individually, to be able to get through it. I'm not a broken person if I haven't heard from him. Like, because we just know that love is strong and I'm going to hear from him tomorrow. It's like, I don't lose sleep because, or I don't sleep better because he said, good night, baby, I love you. It's just not. So if you don't have love in your life, that's okay. I talked about that for our holiday programming where I said, not everybody wants to be around a bunch of people on the holidays, but we're made to think that the holidays are about being with your loved ones and blah, blah, blah. No. Like I said, I've done Christmas on my own just because I didn't want to be around people, or even when I was single where I'm like, I'm just going to do Christmas on my own at home. Don't feel sad for me. It's my choice. It's all right. And so going back to that dialogue that we had last week on the show where people need that reassurance on social media by posting their vacation photos in the moment and people getting likes and whatever. When you don't depend on that, think about it, right? We hear about how many people have, body image issues because they see what is popular on social media and it makes them feel shitty about their own body or about their own lifestyle or whatever. But there you go, you're being influenced by it. So that term influencer, we always see as like somebody who's got a big audience and is popular and makes fun videos and whatever. But I've never appreciated that term. I just don't like it. And so for me, I'm okay with not hearing I love you all the time. I don't even know the last time my mom hugged me, truthfully. I don't know. She's never said, I'm proud of you. She's never said things like that. That doesn't make me a bitter person. Like I said, I don't need that from people. I know that I'm a good writer. I know that I've achieved a lot in life. I mean, when, Betty White's birthday was back in January, I sit there and go, you know what, how did I get invited to her 90th birthday? It was all of that stuff that I had built up, whether it was radio shows, my books, my newspaper column, the media platform, the company, whatever it was. There was something that got me invited to that event. And that's where I reflected and went and said, I did all that on my own. I didn't have anybody boosting me up and going, oh my God, that's awesome. You're going to do this, or that you've got this opportunity. I wasn't doing a song and dance and needing the applause and going, mommy, look what I did. Hey mom, I'm going to America's Got Talent, mom. Oh, I'm going to Hollywood again for American Idol. Oh, I'm going to Betty White's birthday. I'm going to go and talk to Donald Trump on the Celebrity Apprentice red carpet. Because I didn't have anybody applauding me. So once you realize that you can't fall back on that to boost yourself up, you stop doing it. And you just go and say, I'm going to do it for myself. And one of the things that I did, we're going to take a break. I'm going to tell you about how I've celebrated my achievements and my accomplishments and how I celebrate me. And that's what matters most. And I'll tell you about that on the Scribble right after this.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
It's never too early to start thinking about your next holiday. Have you checked out Mexico recently? From tequila tasting, swimming with horses, to ziplining through the jungle and watching whales and dolphins in their natural habitat, Puerto Vallarta has it all. Visit mexico.jbonair.com to see all the fun PV has to offer. That's at mexico.jbonair.com for hundreds of photos, interviews, and videos from around the tourist hotspot. Check out mexico.jbonair.com for all the fun. That's mexico.jbonair.com.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
JB here, back on the Scribble. So how do you love yourself aside from masturbating? Well, something that I've done since I was, again, in my parents' basement with my little fax machine and starting to be a writer, was I was celebrating my accomplishments. And I've talked about it on this show before, where every little milestone, when I started writing weekly commentaries and I began posting them online, I created a website. And again, this is before the days of blogging and just, WordPress and really easy to upload things. Well, I still have my website, speakfreewithjb.com, and I would post my columns. And when that website hit the 1 year mark, first, I guess, when it 10,000 visits, or hits, it used to be called, you'd get 10,000 hits. Then when it was 25,000 hits, and then 50,000, 100,000 hits. And then, the 1 year, the 2 year, the 3 year. Every freaking year, I celebrate that website. I have every year celebrated the day that speakfreewithjb.com launched. Why? Because that was pivotal in my career. That was, the first, I was a weekly newspaper columnist for 20 years in the Emerson Southeast Journal before the paper just recently shut down at the end of December. I wrote over 800 and almost 900 columns for them. And most of them are on that website. So that was something that I recognize as being, hey, that's what got my newspaper career going. And then when I started hosting Top of the Charts, our Top 40 music show, that was in April of that year, I would celebrate every year the launch of the show. And even though this is now the third year that the show has been off the air, I still celebrate. How do I celebrate? I either get a cake, I take a walk down memory lane and I look at the different pictures from the events that we covered or the tourism destinations that we visited, or I listen to the celebrity interviews or look at the pictures of the red carpets, whatever it was. And the anniversary of my book, one of my books coming out that became a bestseller. So I have all these little things, and something that I did when I was at my parents' in the basement with that first year of Speak Free with JB, I went and put up a bunch of decorations around my little office space that I had made. I was celebrating myself. I knew that my parents weren't going to pat me on the back or congratulate me because they also just didn't get it. They didn't get the internet and websites and all that stuff at the time. So that's fine. But my parents had listened to the radio. They knew what that was. But again, never celebrated it. And we had this moment on the 12th anniversary of the show where I had Allison Janney was a surprise guest. I knew she was calling. But we ended up calling my mom. We sort of flipped it around. Allison was a surprise guest on my show. And then we surprised my mom because she said, "Oh, it's mom calling." And I'm like, my mom doesn't listen to my show. And Allison, truly in the moment, was like, "Really? Your mom does?" I said, "No, she wouldn't even know that it's my anniversary." So we called her, and sure enough, she asks, "Oh, do you know that it's Jeremy's anniversary?" My mom was like, "No." So I didn't have that. It doesn't make me feel good if somebody acknowledges, because I already feel good about it. It doesn't make me feel, it doesn't make me feel better because I already feel good about it. And that's because I celebrated it. I am not above going and ordering a cake for myself and having congratulations written on it. I'm not about, I do it all the time. And then I'm just trying to think of all these different anniversaries that, or just, or not even anniversaries, just things that I recognize or celebrate, because it's me patting myself on the back. And I realize that, yes, people can be proud of me, but nobody's going to be proud of me more than I am. Right? But when you think about when you accomplish something, whether it's a marathon or if it's just whatever, yes, people are going to be happy for, but who ultimately feels the best about it? You do. Right? I have gone, when I had my best-selling book, people had said, oh, why don't you get like it framed, like blown up in like a framed kind of a thing? And I said, because that's mostly for show. Like, that's going to be when people come over and like, you're going to look at it. I know what the book looks like. I don't need that. It doesn't make me feel good. It's things like that. We got to go already. All right. Celebrate yourself. That's what I'm saying. You don't need love from other people. You need, as Whitney Houston says, right? The greatest love of all is happening to me. It's inside me. I love myself. Back on the Scribble right after this.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up the Scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter at The Scribble Show and at thescribbleshow.com.
My name is Jeremy Bradley. This is The Scribble. Send me an email live at jbonair.com. I will talk to you same time, same place next week. Bye-bye for now.
Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter at The Scribble Show. The Scribble is a speak-free media presentation.
If you want some